What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined every Monday and Wednesday by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, we are entering week 3 of OTAs for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they approach minicamp and their final break before football is officially back. Antonio Brown made plenty of headlines all weekend long. We'll dive into all of them. The Steelers are looking to fill their 90th roster spot with one of two guys. And of course, there's plenty of conversations around Broderick Jones and his expectations, his new role, etc. as we move forward with some football. It's a beautiful day in the Berg. It was a beautiful weekend all week in the Berg. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good. I'm glad it's cooled off, actually. Like, it was hot. I couldn't step outside of my house without sweating. But so I'm glad it's cooled off. It was a nice weekend. I had to help a friend move, though. It's my arm yesterday, and I was like, there were a lot of people there and went quickly, but I was the one who ended up having to haul all the furniture up like 2 flights of stairs and stuff like that. So it was a long day. But
yeah, that's terrible. You don't have like that giant friend. Like, there's always like that one friend that you're just like, yeah, that guy's got it.
No, did not have a giant friend. Yeah, wow. I was the giant friend.
Yeah, you guys should spend the summer trying to find, a giant friend just for that situation. You hang out with them like once a month. You know what I'm saying?
Just keep them in the loop.
Like, hey, Danny, come on, we're moving. We'll bring beers. Come hang out. Yeah, you got to have a giant friend. That stinks. But moving sucks. This weekend's terrible, but I feel like it's a good workout. Like I feel like hot days like that. Like we were walking around, there was like a giant Highland Park yard sale thing going on yesterday. Well, I bought nothing, but just walking around, I'm pouring sweat. And I'm like, this is cardio. It's like the same thing pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to work out for the rest of the week. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
The whole week. He's just like, yeah, we're good. All right, let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. We'll start with the tryouts. The Steelers brought in 2 guys in the last couple of days. Offensive tackle Eric Smith, 27 years old, spent a couple of years with the New York Jets. Played sparingly, not really a lot going on for him in his NFL resume. And then long snapper and former West Virginia standout Rex Sunahara, I believe his name is. He actually spent time on the team's practice squad in 2021. He's bounced around the NFL here and there. I think he spent 2020 and 2021 with the Miami Dolphins as well. Went to the XFL this past season. You look at either of these guys, one roster spot left. In my opinion, and when I texted you, like, hey, we should talk about this as well, my thought was a little bit of a wasted spot if these are the guys you're bringing in, especially the fact that in the last couple of weeks, they've already added 2 offensive tackles. And if you're going to beat out Christian Kuntz after 1 year being there and him looking a lot better in year 2, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. What were your thoughts when you saw these guys?
Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. I feel like tackle is a spot, and offensive line in particular is a spot that they have a lot of depth at. That's not really a high priority to me. Long snapper, I have the same thoughts. Like, Christian Kuntz is very solid. And I feel like long snapper is also a position that if there's an emergency, if Christian Kuntz goes down with an injury or something like that, you'll have options later in the season. It's not a position that's going to get snatched up quickly and that the free agent market is going to completely dry out. I feel like there's at least one position that I would have rather they kind of dove into a little bit and did some more homework there.
What's that position?
Well, I think it's safety, quite honestly.
Okay.
I know they've got some pieces there, but I'm not a huge Trey Norwood guy, and I feel like their meat on the bone might not be the right word, but I'm a little bit concerned about the depth there because I just don't think there's a whole lot behind. I guess it would be Peterson and Minka, really.
And
KZ,
Neal.
Yeah, but Neal isn't. I feel like Neal's going to end up playing, I guess, less of a safety. I feel like the way people have talked about him, he's figuring to play more of like a
hybrid.
Hybrid, but looks more like a linebacker when you actually see him play on the field. You know what I mean? So I feel like another ball hawk, a safety that can play in the middle of the field. I feel like that would be a better use of that last spot to me.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that one, especially with the Neal. I like your idea about Neal, and he even talked about it Thursday, Friday, maybe, about how playing inside linebacker is not off the table. So I could definitely see him, and I actually expect him. Like, from the small glances that we've seen at practice, it's not really him playing a traditional safety role. So I agree with that one. KZ, I believe, is going to be solid, but I agree. Like Norwood, you want Norwood to turn into something. You feel like he's smart enough to turn into something, but he hasn't turned into anything. And because of that, like we're hitting the point, this is year 3 of his career. Like at what point do you just look at it and go, okay, we need somebody new? That's a good one. I haven't thought about safety much. You have Miles Killebrew, who's only a special teamer. You have plenty of cornerback depth. You've offensive line's ridiculous. Like there's no need to touch to even bring somebody in on, like, what is Eric Smith going to do here? Nothing.
Right.
He's not going to take any reps. You know, we've already forgotten about guys like Dylan Cook, you know, who I forgot he's on the team. Like, and we're 2 weeks into practice. That's how deep it is. Like, if we're already talking about Dan Moore switching over to the right side and taking right tackle reps, what are these guys like? Are they competing for a roster spot? Because they're not. Like, you're not going to be the 4th tackle in the Pittsburgh Steelers 53-man roster. That doesn't happen. Just doesn't make any sense. Long snapper, I agree with you. There's zero reason for Christian Kuntz to be off this team, especially year in. You have your kicker, you have your placeholder, you have your long snapper. Let it rock. There's no need for it. Safety'd be a good one. There's not really another like position on my mind, you know, like inside linebacker, I believe, but Mark Robinson has impressed me. And if it is somebody at inside linebacker, I think it's like less of a name. You know, it's somebody to compete for that 5th spot with like a Chappelle Russell, just so that there's some competition there. Safety might be a sleeper. That really might be a good one, especially if Keanu Neal isn't like that. Like he's a Terrell Edmonds, but could you imagine if you already had like a Keanu Neal and then you brought in somebody who could actually play free safety, you know, behind Minka and play center field when need be, or switch in with DeMonte KZ? I don't know. Do you have a name?
I have a few names.
Okay.
Some of them more likely than others. Like Duron Harmon is still on the market. And he wasn't making a whole lot of money with LA last year. I think it was maybe a hair over $1 million. Landon Collins is also available, and Armani Watts. I feel like those guys are more likely, guys who maybe Watts is young, not past his prime, but Collins maybe is a little bit, but could be, you know, I don't think he's really a starter in this league anymore, but could be willing to take a backup role in a way that Harmon can still really play. He's getting up there in age, but he had like 85 tackles, a couple picks last year. Collins and Watts feel like guys who could maybe look for a fresh start and just look for a place where they could maybe contribute and compete for even a backup job.
That's really not a bad idea either, because they're both older, but at the point in their career where they'll be able to contribute off the bench in a small role. You know, kind of like KZ last year. Like KZ was 29 years old. He wasn't really looking for a whole ton. You could come in here and just kind of be whatever they ask you to be. If Keanu Neal, like at that point, if you have 4 guys and you're able to work, because that's the thing is like versatility. I went on Locked On the other day and the theme was versatility is the best ability. And that's so true. Like if you could play Keanu Neal at a number of positions and Patrick Peterson at a number of positions, and then you use KZ, Minka, and somebody else, like even if it is a Harmon, which I think is a great name, to just play like a true traditional safety role, that's a good one. What about a name like John Johnson? Will Young, 27, still on the market?
Yeah. I'm afraid that he's going to kind of dip into there. It would cost them a little bit more. And I don't know if they would want to maintain some more flexibility with that cap space versus signing a big name like that, especially for someone who's very clearly going to be a backup, you know?
Mm-hmm. Do you think at this point in time in free agency, do you still think that he goes for a lot of money? Or like, you think that that price tag could be negotiated?
It could definitely be negotiated, especially at this point. But I feel like there's similar levels of production that you could get for cheaper, I think. Johnson, I don't think would be a bad addition necessarily, and they obviously have some money to play around with, but you know, why spend more than you need to, I think would I guess be my thought. But that's, you know, not knowing where Johnson's head is at and what his camp is saying and how much money he's actually looking for.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, why are you still a free agent? You know, you're 27 years old, you're coming off good years. Why are you still a free agent? Just Duron Harmon's market value on Spotrac is 1 year, $2.9 million, which you know, Omar Khan turns that into 1 year, $1.5 million. And that is a beautiful signing. Like that'd be perfect. As perfect. Yeah, it's as perfect as it gets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then do you expect Norwood to be the guy that would be bounced out there? Or do you think Miles Killebrew's job is probably also up for grabs?
Yeah, I think Killebrews would be probably more likely than Norwood because they've actually used Norwood as a safety, and Killebrew is, like you said, he's been kind of more relegated to a almost solely special teams role.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like Trey Norwood can do that, and he can, has experience playing safety and a little bit of corner too. So I feel like Killebrew would be the guy kind of on the chopping block.
Yeah, I agree. This is a little, I did not expect you to say safety. Eyes are a little
Really?
open now because I haven't thought about safety. I've just looked at it as in just like they're good. They got 3 guys. But if you are like ready to use Keanu Neal all over the field, you do need somebody else. Like, and it's not
Mhm.
going to be Trey Norwood. You got to take Mink off the field at some point. He can't
Right.
play, like last year he was banged up every single week, and you don't want that to happen again. You want these guys to be healthy. You
Right.
already cleared up outside linebacker. Inside linebacker, I mean, I still think you can make a splash there, but if you're not gonna, if Mark Robinson is a guy that you believe in, you just wait it out, like just
Mhm.
wait it out and grab another like real bad name right before training camp to have them compete,
Yeah.
and get rid of one of these offensive linemen or something. And then besides that, this entire team is filled. So
Right.
that's a good position to watch. I think we might be the only ones that have ever brought that up ever.
Really? Hmm.
Maybe.
Well,
Everybody I talk to is like, safety. Why do you need a safety? And I'm like, yeah, no, you're kind of right. No, they're wrong.
yeah.
They're definitely
I'll,
wrong.
I'll let him know. Everyone can listen to this episode, and hopefully I change their
I was
mind.
gonna say they're gonna know that everybody's gonna listen
Mhm.
and be like, "Oh man, Steve, man, that's a good point.
Mhm.
That's a good point." All right, safety. That's a good one. That's a good one. We'll see what happens. Next thing I want to talk about: Antonio Brown, back in the headlines. Obviously, every time we say we're sick and tired of talking about Antonio Brown, he does something else that's real stupid. This time, he's got 2 ones that are less troublesome, I guess, outside of the fact that he was reportedly kicked out of a hotel over the weekend in Albany, the team's hotel in Albany,
Mhm.
because he was smoking weed and bumping music in the middle of the night or something, things that aren't allowed in hotels. Outside of that, Marquise Pouncey, former Pittsburgh Steeler, has been very open about, come sign me and my brother Mike. We'll play 1 game for you guys, June 16th. Let's make it a party. Bring Cam Newton as well. Before we dive into that, did you see the tweet or the IG post from Pouncey?
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Pouncey because that is definitely my graphic, 100%. That was the first thing I noticed. I was just like, man, that was mine. I made that.
Mhm.
Cool. Photo cred would have been awesome, but I'm pretty sure I stole both of those photos from other people. So nothing I could
Um,
do there. Does want to play for them. I mean, at this point, like, is
I'm just
the Albany umpire is like a joke, right?
Yeah, I'm just shocked so many people keep wanting to voluntarily sign their name next to Antonio Brown. Like, giving you example after example that he's not a reliable person, but
Mm-hmm.
he still seems to have a lot of friends and a lot of people who think that he could be reliable, and that's
Does
just weird to me.
does he have a lot of friends though? Like, he's got Pouncey, but Pouncey, like, I was around for Pouncey's last 2 years or 3 years, and like I was around Pouncey enough to know that Pouncey's, I like Pouncey, big fan of Pouncey. I thought he was a really good dude, like great guy. He is definitely kicks me as a guy that, or gives me the feel of a guy that would still rock with Antonio Brown, like doesn't
Yeah.
care. He's just like, yeah, whatever, man. He's throwing gummy penises at girls and chairs off balconies at children and grandpas. Who cares? That's my brother.
Yeah.
That's who Marquise Pouncey reminds me of. Outside of that, I don't really know anybody who's really like, every time I
Well,
talk about AB, it's kind of like he's alone, or
yeah.
like with some weird rapper.
Yeah, maybe not friends, but but there are still, I mean, I feel like there are still plenty of people who are willing to say, "Oh, well, maybe he's changed now. Maybe he'll be different
Yeah.
when he gets this thing." Like the idea that the Albany Empire were like, allowed him to come into this ownership group and take control at least in part of this team. Like, I don't know, that's still pretty wild to me. And
Yeah.
the Pouncey brothers is the least surprising of it, but it seems like every time we don't want to talk about Antonio Brown, there's someone willing to give him some kind of second, third, fourth, fifth, eighth chance,
Yeah.
and bring him back into the spotlight.
Yep, every single time. And that's these guys. Do you expect that to actually happen? Like, do you expect, first off, like, AB announced his tour the other day for when? July? It starts in July. I forget. It's the Put That Shit On tour. I
Okay.
believe it starts in July. So what's he getting? One game in with the Empire? Like, I just don't get what are you suiting up for? What are all these people suiting up for? So that you guys could sell out some tickets and make a boatload of money and play one game and win, and then you lose the rest of the season because your team stinks and you don't have a head coach? Like, you know, and at this point, he's fired his last head coach within 5 days, and now he's getting declined by people. Like, the last guy that he offered a job to said no, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be a trend. Like, if you're a head coach, if you have a position elsewhere, why are you coming to be the head coach of the Albany Empire? That's just
if you're someone who's worthwhile for a head coaching gig, the Albany Empire, you are staying as far away as possible from that organization. I have to imagine. Like, it's got to be a death sentence to coach for them. Not a death sentence maybe, but it's a dead end job.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're the only outcome of that job is to get fired. That's the only one. So I just don't you're going to dish out all this money, which he's not. You know, he could offer people all the money he wants. They're never going to get paid. Mm-hmm. And they're just going to win one game. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The bigger news for Antonio Brown, in my opinion, Shannon Sharpe bought out by Fox. He's out of Undisputed with Skip Bayless. Congrats to I don't know what your thoughts are on Skip Bayless, but I have hated Skip. I don't want to use the word hate. I have disliked Skip Bayless and what he does as a living for quite some time, since I was a small child, really. Wasn't a First Take guy, never really enjoyed that show. Very rarely do you catch me watching Undisputed ever. Shannon Sharpe's out. Antonio Brown says that he wants in Undisputed with Skip Bayless, AB and Skip Bayless. How long does it last? How entertaining could that possibly be?
Well, that first episode, I think, would really be some special television. I would be interested in watching that. I don't know how much longer after that. I would be really interested in Antonio Brown's opinions on the sports news of the day. I would not give it very long if it happens at all. I think that's two massive personalities that are, and not that Shannon didn't have a massive personality, but I think he and Skip on some level were friends and like colleagues and generally enjoyed each other's company, if not tolerated it. Antonio Brown and Skip, that seems like the easiest powder keg to blow up, like ever. That I don't know. That just is very easily a situation where both people get very annoyed with each other very quickly. Not to mention, like, it could spill over into like production staff and everything like that. Like, there's too much going on, and there's too much. I don't know. There's just too big of personalities for them to really, I think, mix very well. But I don't know. For a while, I think it would be entertaining.
Yeah, for that first episode would be the numbers would be through the roof. You want to have one show like this is the beginning of the new Undisputed with Skip Bayless, where you just you rotate guests in, and that first one is Antonio Brown. You're talking about numbers, like crazy numbers. But there's two things. I agree with you. Like, and I can't see Antonio Brown talking about sports at all, because like, they're going to bring up the NBA and AB is going to sit there and have like a deep conversation about it? No. Second is how fast Skip Bayless jumps at people. And it's just like, no. With once you start talking, AB talks so slow, so slow. Like, it is, it is very slow, for lack of a better way to put it, very slow. And it would just be a bunch of AB starting to talk, Skip jumping in, AB starting to talk, Skip jumping in. And it would just, it would be a mess. It would be entertaining. Don't get me wrong. A whole episode, I think I'm making 10 minutes. Like, you just commercialless television for one day, and
because how long is one episode of Undisputed? Because it's on for like a while, right? It's like a few hours, isn't it?
Is it really? Like, it's like a 3-hour show? I've never watched it. I won't lie.
I can't say I've watched, but I assumed it was because they just talked and like rambled, because it's also like simulcast on radio, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
so I
really?
assumed it was like it was just like Fox's like middle of the day programming. Like, that's what
it probably is. Yeah, like, it's probably like they're 10 to 1, like that prime time First Take type thing. That would make sense to me. 3 hours, there's no way he's lasting 3 hours. There's no.
He would walk off the set and it would just be Skip. Like,
yeah, I know. That first commercial break, they come back and then it's just Skip sitting there. It's just like, well, Antonio left. He just
we do not know where Antonio is.
Yeah. He just decided it wasn't him anymore. Yeah, that would be That would be awesome. But the numbers, man, like if Fox is in the, and Fox is like the fact that you kept Skip Bayless and got rid of Shannon Sharp shows that you're not really like invested in.
Right. They know what this is. I think
Yeah,
they know
yeah,
what
yeah.
it is
Like they
to be.
understand the power that Skip Bayless holds. And he does. Like I gotta give, like I might not like what Skip does, or how he handles his profession, but at the same time, like that guy is one of the most powerful people in sports media and has been for a long, long time. And Fox knows that. Fox knows people are going to come to see Skip. That's totally fine. If they're in this for the numbers, which they're business and they are, they should call Antonio Brown just once, and they should make Skip sit through it. And that
Yes,
should just
punishment
be
for both of them. They need to go
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah, yeah,
undisputed
yeah,
together.
yeah. AB's like television career could just quick lived and just move back on.
Yeah.
And then that'll be it. That would put a damper in the return to the NFL
That would.
AB's agent says is very much so going to happen. So
Yeah.
you know,
It would.
it would be a bummer. It would be a bummer to watch him go on television and not
playing the NFL.
Not playing the NFL again. Yeah. 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 Would stink. All right. Last thing I want to talk about. There's plenty of conversation right now about the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. We just dove into how it's way too deep, but there's a position battle that's, I want to say hasn't started yet, but probably going to start very soon that everybody's talking about. Dan Moore is rumored to be competing with Chooks on the right side. That was shut down. That was shut down by Dan Moore. I couldn't wait to walk into, I told everybody all day long at practice that day, I was like, I cannot wait to walk into the locker room right now, walk right up to Dan Moore and just say like, hey, please shut down this rumor because it's stupid. It doesn't exist. It's way too early. Like, the fact that one person who isn't at practice, who isn't in the locker room, who has no connection to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this gets me mad because he does it every single year. Every single year, this one guy, and I'm not going to name his name, but I don't care about calling him out on here. Every single year, this guy like stirs up something that isn't true. This year, it's the right tackle. And the right tackle, like there won't be a competition, but Dan Moore likely will spend a good chunk of time in training camp starting to work on the right tackle. Right now, it's 2 snaps a day. And it's all in individuals. Like there's no competition going on between him and Chooks Okorafor. The thought though is that eventually Broderick Jones will start over Dan Moore Jr. That hasn't been the case yet, although he's taken 1 or 2 first team reps here or there just to kind of warm himself up, get acquainted with everybody. Do you look at this and say it should be the thought of the Steelers to anticipate Broderick Jones is eventually going to do that this summer and jump Dan Moore Jr.? Or should you look at, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you believe they should be looking at it and saying, let's keep this guy, let's move at a turtle's pace here for as long as we need to, because we don't really have a need to rush anything?
I think it's the second option. So I think they're going to bring him on a little bit slower. I think you're pleasantly surprised if Broderick develops really fast and he's a starting caliber player by week 1, but I wouldn't count on it and I wouldn't expect it. And you don't need to count on it or expect it. I feel like you're in a pretty good spot with Dan Moore there. I feel like Broderick would really, really have to make some really quick leaps, and that's nothing against him. That's just being a rookie in the NFL, and left tackle is an important spot. You can't take risks there, especially with Kenny. So that's what leads me to believe that they're going to take this slowly. They are not going to try and rush Broderick into something because, if he flops, immediately, it's a wasted pick, and it's a big wasted pick. It's, this is the highest they've picked in however many years. Like, this is not a pick that they want to miss on, and Broderick is not a prospect that they want to miss on, especially, playing a premium position or something and all that. So they will bring him along. I think they will bring him along slowly and, not try to sink him before he's even really had a chance, I guess.
Yep. I agree. Like there's just no, Dan Moore's got starting experience. The team likes him. We talked all offseason. Like if Dan Moore is the starting left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's really not the end of the world. Is it the best case scenario? No. Is it the end of the world? Not even close. There's if you didn't replace Kevin Dotson, concerning. If if Kendrick Green was still your center, concerning. Like all these things, but left tackle with Dan Moore, it could get a lot worse.
Yeah, Absolutely.
I think that's where they have to sit. And like, I think the fans want to rush it. I get it. Broderick Jones is a first round pick. He's the future of the left tackle position for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's super young. He's only 20. I believe he just turned 22 years old the other day. He's got really just a year and a half of experience playing as a starting left tackle at any, at any level really outside of high school. And I get what Georgia does, but you don't want to rush those things.
Right.
Like you don't want him to get overly confident and then get pushed down a pedestal and have to climb back up. Like you'd rather this guy earn it. That's the best thing about him is that he earned it at Georgia. Like he could have left, but he said, I want the competition. I want to be here for this and that. And, I want to learn and grow. Cool. Do it again in the NFL. Prove yourself. The Steelers do that with every single position. It's the reason Kenny Pickett didn't start last season, even though he probably should have. It's the reason, Najee's always kind of had the role, but every position that you could possibly, TJ Watt
Right.
had to earn a starting job in the NFL. Like everyone should have to earn a starting job in the NFL. And Dan Moore isn't bad enough to just say,
Right.
oh, you're done, and especially like this is year 4 for this, or year 3 for this guy. Like if he's going to make a leap, it's going to be this year. And if he does make a leap, you're hyped. You're like, okay, now we got options, or we have a trade bait. Like we have some situation that works out way better for us instead of just being like, all right, you're done. And then moving on. Like it made sense with Kevin Dotson. He had to go, but it just doesn't make sense with Dan Moore Jr.
Right. And with Kevin Dotson, you signed a veteran that
Yeah.
was clearly ready for this job and was clearly better than Kevin Dotson.
Yeah.
And I think you make a good point about the idea that Dan Moore did not do anything to lose this job on his own. He doesn't deserve that. He's played well enough that he has earned the benefit the doubt, at least for now. And that you can feel really comfortable saying, Broderick, take a beat, learn from this guy. He's been a starter in the NFL. Like he can teach you some things. You're the few, like, that's the thing. Like Broderick's not, I doubt Broderick's going to get real upset sitting on the bench, at least for his first year.
Yeah.
Like I think he's going to kind of understand, like you said, from his experience at Georgia, that when you are on a talented team, you're going to have to wait a little bit. You're going to have to earn your way up to the starting role. Like nothing's going to be handed. So I think Broderick has the right attitude to accept this role. I think Dan Moore has been really good about saying, look, I'm just here to help the team. So if that includes starting at left tackle, if that means taking reps at right tackle, if that means helping bringing Broderick along, I think everyone has the right attitude about this. And that makes it so much easier for the coaching staff to say, we're comfortable with this guy. Broderick, we'll get you there, but you got to be patient and you got to work at it.
Yeah, exactly. Like Broderick's not going to be upset about that one. Our offensive line room is tight. And just like you said, like, dude, Dan Moore is such a professional. Like he is a dude who, and Kevin Dotson too. Kevin Dotson has handled this demotion very well. But Dan Moore is a guy that, you don't start working at right tackle on your own because you're selfish. You do that because you're like, I understand that's possibly where my best opportunity is moving forward. It's where the team's going to need me most likely this season, is to be like an able to play both sides type of guy. Because if Chooks goes down, like you're not putting Broderick over there, you're moving Dan to that side,
Right.
and then you're going to put Broderick in at the left side. That's what you're going to do. And he understands that fully. Like this isn't that's the biggest thing with taking right tackle reps. Like for me, is that Dan Moore fully understands 100% that the 3 tackles that will make this 53-man roster are him, Chooks, and Broderick Jones. And if Chooks goes down, he's going to play right tackle. It's not going to be Broderick because they want Broderick to only play left tackle. And he took that and said, cool, this is for the betterment of the team. This is what I need to do. And he did it. Like that's huge. It shows exactly what the Steelers are looking for in this guy. Like they haven't invested a ton in him. I think that's what holds a lot of ground here, is that he's a 4th-round pick. So like, it's not like you're like, oh, this guy's a bust. Like, no, he's probably exceeded expectations up until this point in his career, but he's a 4th-round pick, man. 4th-round pick offensive tackles turn into Hall of Famers all the time, all the time. And I'm not saying that that's Dan Moore. I'm not saying he's even starter capable, but I'm saying that I'm letting him lose the job before I make it a real competition.
Absolutely.
Like I'm not putting these two out there and splitting reps once training camp starts. That's just not how it's going to work.
I think that's a really good point. Like Dan Moore has to lose this job before Broderick, I think, really has a chance. Like Dan Moore has to really show you that he takes a step back or he's not capable of doing this before you even start to consider bringing Broderick along. Like it'll be an emergency, I think, before Broderick really gets his first real chance.
Yep. It'll be a very slow summer for Broderick Jones, which, might stink. But like, you even look at the body types, man, and Broderick Jones and Dan Moore Jr. Dan Moore looks like an offensive tackle, and Broderick Jones looks like a dude who just showed up from college. That's there's a difference, and that'll change. And when it does change, Broderick's going to be monster. But right now, slow and steady wins the race. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have if this team was loaded and didn't have a left tackle and said that's the reason they're not going to win the Super Bowl, you put Broderick Jones in there. But if they're right now, they're pretty good on paper, and Dan Moore will do just fine and do well enough to get you where you need to be. And because of that, just let it rock. Just let it rock. We'll see how that all plays out. Obviously, there'll be plenty more headlines, plenty more fake headlines coming in the next, couple of weeks, months as the Pittsburgh Steelers get going. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. Find all of mine and Steven's work at allsteelers.com and our pit coverage at insidethepanthers.com. We'll be back on Wednesday. Peace.